I'm Craig Fisher, and I'm here with Michael Nadeau. He is the CEO and founder of an interesting, revolutionary software called Connect. And we're here today to talk about the next evolution of recruiting. We'll call it Recruiting 2.0 for lack of a better reference, but that's a pretty good place to start.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So tell me a little bit about the history of this app, why you conceived of it, and why it's important today.
Well, the history, goes back for me a little over 30 years. The history of really where my career started. I started out at an internship, walked into a company, and they said, call these people. I said, what do I say? It was a stack of resumes, and they gave me a script, and I started calling them. And, this is the early 90s, and, everyone was trying to find a job. The IT business was booming. Technology was beginning to come out, and people were scurrying to find talent. And so I picked up the stack of resumes and started dialing and reading off the script. Are you looking for a job, contract or perm? Can you send an updated resume? Get it over to the recruiters. And it was a staffing company, a staffing model. And you sort of fast forward all these years. I spent a good chunk of my career from 2003 to 2016 in the corporate wellness space. We built some really cool technology that helped employers wrangle in their healthcare costs by empowering their employees to understand their health risk factors and health behaviors and create really cool incentives. And that was a super fun company, and we had a great time with that. And a few years later, as I was embarking on some other journeys, I had this marketing firm, and we were hiring talent. And I walked into this gal's office, and I said, "What are you doing?" And she was literally reading resumes, and I looked at her and said, "We still do that?"
Paper resume.
Yeah, like we still look at resumes like it's 2019. Like, this is insane. And I said, "No, tell me what you're doing. I understand the concept. Trust me. I get it. But what are you doing?" She said, "Well, I'm trying to find them on social media. I'm trying to look them up on LinkedIn. I'm trying to learn a little bit about them so I don't waste our time." It's like, that's interesting. What else are you doing? I just kept asking her, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And I just remember thinking to myself, I cannot believe this is how we still find people. I mean, obviously, everyone knows the greatest way to find talent is through your talent, right? And that'll never change. Employee referrals, they're not going to refer somebody if they're not a great fit. But unfortunately, we're living in a world where, companies have high volume hiring, or they're growing, and, they're not getting the volume that they need. And they're obviously just not filling seats and building their culture. And so I really started to think about how we hired, how we hired in the past, how we've hired in the future, what tools we use to identify more than just skills, how we're really not looking for experience, we're looking for people. Right. We're looking for the right DNA. And so I just started to think and look at what technology was out there, look at the processes that existed. And, to be honest with you, I was actually a little bummed out that there was nothing cool out there. Right. In the marketplace. And so I started drawing on the board and didn't stop. And yes, as I do, as everybody knows around here, I'm drawing all over the place like a little kid. And, fortunate that we've got a really good development team, and we've been developing software the last, 25 years, and decided to take this concept and take all these drawings and see if we could build a better mousetrap.
So let's delve into that a little bit. So you, when building into your award-winning wellness app, which you had a nice exit out of, and a fantastic story around here, locally grown here in DFW, you built an engineering company in order to do a better job of producing software, of designing and developing software. And that really helped you to be able to create this sort of what I'm going to say is resume plus social built into one beautiful digital profile for candidates with a two-way communication that allows them to have constant updates from the employers they're applying to.
Sitting on top of some really cool AI.
Cool AI. And with a really solid foundation because of this awesome engineering company that is the parent company of the organization.
Yeah. The reality is, when I try and talk to people that don't necessarily understand the nuts and bolts of what's happened, if you just break down our world, you've got AD and BC for technology. That was 2007, 2008.
Right.
And that's when the iPhone came out. And that's when the entire world changed. All the tech we built prior to that was generally for businesses, and obviously the internet was built and all that kind of stuff. But when that iPhone came out, it transformed the world, and it started this massive trend of mobility. We changed everything. We changed the way we communicate. We changed the way, I mean, literally the world changed, and that was 16 years ago. And so this big wave of everybody jumping into mobility, it impacted every single aspect of business, from banking to finance to retail to all this kind of stuff. And then obviously social media is taken off at the same time. So this mobility trend happened, and it continues to happen. And then the next big trend was cloud-based computing. And that was where everybody knew we got to move into this. Can't just have servers stacked up on top of each other. And I'm pretty sure, I might be wrong, but Amazon built technology to run their company and realized how big it was and ended up turning it into a massive business. So we went from mobility to cloud computing. And now we're in the beginning stages of this next big tech revolution, which should be bigger than the first two put together. Right. And that is, the household name today is AI. And those are just large language modules, and they're learning modules, and they're systems that get smarter and smarter over time. And we live in these modules all day long, and we don't even realize they're happening. You know, we interact with Amazon, and it gets smarter the more we shop from them and all this kind of stuff. And so when we sat down and looked at engineering, there was a different way to build technology today. And if your infrastructure isn't built in these new modern ways, literally, if your tech stack was built 5-6 years ago, it's probably on some old technology that's not going to scale. So we wanted to make sure we built large scale infrastructure and all this real nerdy stuff around the tech side. But it's important that when we're building technology, it's built for scale, and it's fast, and it works well, and it doesn't break, and all those little things that sometimes we take for granted. So that was the foundation of what we needed to build, was make sure it was built on a modern architecture that could handle all of these things that are happening in the world. And there are two trends that are never going anywhere. Our trend number one is asynchronous communication. It's just not going to change. I mean, more and more, it's like half the time I get more messages from my children on Instagram, which I would prefer never to be on, but I have to be on there because of my kids, and short form video. Yeah. Right? It's the way we consume data. And
my kids do the same thing. They'll chat to me on Snapchat, and
I haven't figured that one out yet. Unfortunately, I'm on it because my daughter's on it, and apparently two of them are on it.
Well, you've got a beautiful recruiting app that mimics it quite well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So interestingly, what you talk about the foundation of the technology, utilizing both sort of cloud technology so that there's constant uptime and fast, rapid activity can happen in a very complicated, yet beautifully simple looking app. And then at the same time, the asynchronous communication, which mimics the modern way we communicate through social media. You've done a really sort of interesting thing for both employers and candidates, which is just make it look like the way you're doing business and doing life every day.
When I looked at the fundamental issues with hiring, because there's issues with hiring, and sometimes you got to talk about the dirty stuff, right? The dirty stuff is for employers, tons of resumes, kind of a stagnant, broken process, takes hours and hours to get people on the phone, to get a first interview scheduled, to only know in 20 seconds this isn't a fit, to find out who's real, what is spam, what's not. Like, the whole thing is just, there's issues with it. When you look at from a person's perspective and you just talk to the masses, which we did, what do you love about the hiring process? Most people didn't have a lot of good things to say. The number one thing that they didn't like about the hiring process, which is universal, was feedback. We're just lacking feedback. And, I go back to Amazon. You buy something on Amazon, and within seconds, you're like, boom, here's your receipt, here's your order, boom, it's being shipped. And it's like notification after notification, all the way to it's 3 stops away. Here's a picture of it on your doorstep. Next day, how was your experience with this product? Rate this product. And nobody cares. Nobody cares that their phone is just going ding, 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 ding. Right. They expect it. Yet when I apply to a job, I don't hear back for months and months on that.
Right. Nothing happens like that.
Nothing happens. And so in order to fix all of the problems, as simple as this sounds, we had to change the experience for all the stakeholders. Mm-hmm. So for the hiring managers, for the talent folks, for the recruiters, we had to change the experience. And for people, we needed to change the experience. Right? And the only way to change the experience was to change the entire process. Mm-hmm. Like, just change. Just, okay, I don't care how we're doing it today, but if we need to go from here to here, how can we make this experience better? So we ended up having to build 2 ecosystems. We had to build a place for employers to do what they needed to be done, and we had to build a place for people to own and manage their career and get the feedback they wanted and get the information they wanted, to be able to stand out from the crowd, to not have to do all these things that are very time consuming and highly ineffective, and unfortunately yield very, very low results. Typical applicants sending out hundreds of resumes to get 2 interviews, employer getting thousands of applicants to get a few interviews. That's a flawed process. I mean, we're playing with some really bad odds there.
It is. It's very 1.0, if I will. And also, I'd say that the cool thing about it, for you engineering types out there, these are web apps we're talking about, right? These universes that Michael and team have built for Connect for employers and for job seekers. They're web apps, so the experience is equally good on mobile as it is on desktop. And just like any other app you have on your phone, you get in-app notifications, which show up on your phone. You're constantly notified of when something happens on both sides of the equation, and you can reply to a candidate or to an employer from anywhere. You're a guy with hobbies. You do motorsports. You're a golf nut. Your kid is heavily involved in sports. You're kind of all over the place, yet you can still do business, hire people, talk to your team, and update the app from anywhere you go.
Yeah, the misconception about apps are these little scaled down versions that are on your phone. and we have a really cool app on the mobile side, but the application itself, the software, is a very sophisticated piece of technology that does so much. And the one thing I always sort of caution people on is that our tech stack and our technology is not designed to make decisions that humans should make. Okay, that's the fear of AI. Everybody thinks, well, AI is going to start making decisions, like he's not a good fit for. No, what our AI does is it's assist in capturing information,
Right.
and capturing interactions, and bringing forth the data that allows a hiring manager to make better decisions faster. And it streamlines all these interactions that are very archaic, like almost. I needed something from my credit card company, and they said, yeah, well, do you have a fax machine? This was yesterday. I'm like, do I have a fax machine? Like, are you serious? They said, well, what? I said, can't you just email me? And she said, no, we'll send you a paper copy of that. I said, okay, well, when can you do that? It should be there in 3 to 4 weeks. Like, what kind of world is Citigroup living in that this is even an option? But in hiring, this is what we're doing.
Bad process.
Bad process. If you're still intaking resumes as your first step, that's hiring 1.0. Right. And we're living in a world of 2.0.
So what I love about the employer app is you can easily search through your existing candidate universe first if you want to.
Okay.
The app tells you if there's already candidates that match that job, and it can easily alert candidates that, hey, there's a job you might match. Now, the cool thing about all that is you can do all that from your phone, which most of the technology that I've messed around with, and I look at technology every day in this space, doesn't have that option.
Yeah.
And recruiters don't go there first. They don't search their own database first. And you're building with Connect almost a LinkedIn universe for each employer. Very private, very contained LinkedIn universe for each employer.
Well, I think there's 2 components here that are really important. One is private.
Right.
We let people know that their Connect profile will never be sold. We will never sell someone's data. We will never let an employer search our database. But we will market to folks and let them know that there's opportunities that they're interested in based on their likes and interest and preference. If they choose to release their profile to an employer, they can take their digital profile, customize their story, and send that off to an employer. So the first thing is Connect is incredibly private, which is fantastic. But once an employer has an applicant, and this gets into CRM technology, why is CRM technology, why do companies continue to spend, in some cases, as you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars every month? We've seen some clients, millions of dollars a month, buying data from these job boards and going through them and getting applicants and filling their job. And the next month or next job, they go do the exact same thing and basically buy the exact same data.
That's right.
And so why hasn't somebody figured out a way to build the CRM? Well, I have the simplest answer to that. When you put bad data into a database, it's useless. Right. And so why is the data that they're putting in no good? And here's why. Because they never got back to them. Mm-hmm. So when you treat applicants poorly, it's really hard to re-engage them. So if Craig you apply to a job here and I completely blow you off and then call you 6 months later, I've left a bad taste in your mouth. So I always tell people, you get 400 applicants in, it's fantastic that you hired someone and it was quick and it was 90% faster and that was great. I don't actually care about the person you hired. They won. I care about the 399 that didn't get the job to make sure they had a great experience with your brand, with your company, and with the process, even if the answer was no. And if you do that, now you're cultivating a real network.
So there's automation in the fact that when you close out a job in the Connect Employer app, a candidate gets a notification, hey, this job's been closed out. We still want you to be part of this universe. There will be other jobs if you want to hang in there. Well done on what you've done so far, things like that. They're notified at least that there's some closure to the situation.
Mm-hmm. They're notified, throughout the entire process. And again, the notifications that are sent out are all, you build them. You build your story. So I want people to hear from me in my tone. Hey, thanks so much for applying. We ended up going in a different direction with this job, but we really appreciated getting to know you. Please keep us in mind for future opportunities and, check out our careers page. And, you just tell people where they're at. Someone, again, you can build out your entire workflow of the hiring process from what I call the expression of interest. Is the moment they apply, they should be hearing from you. Right. That instant second. That's the world we live in. If they're not getting, and I'm not talking about stagnant things. I'm talking about, wow, thank you so much for your application. We're excited to get to know you more. And then take them through this journey and then interact with them. And, we have videos that we've pre-recorded that go out and say, hey, I'm Michael Nadeau. I'm the CEO of Connect. Thanks so much for applying. I appreciate you answering these few questions. By the way, if you have any questions for us, please put them down here in our dialogue tab. We'll get back to you. I'm really excited to get to know you more through this process. Got a few more questions for you, and I look forward to seeing you soon. And just by sending that message out to people and they're seeing it on their phone, like, wow, they're learning, they're hearing about the hiring manager, they're hearing from the leadership team, they're learning about the culture. And all this stuff has happened with zero human interaction, but yet it's incredibly humanized.
Well, and often you'll send a note directly to a candidate as soon as they apply via video, right? You'll send them a video chat right back and say, hey, Andres, it's great to see you. Thanks for making the video. I'd like to know a couple more things. Can you send me a video back talking about those things? Or you could do it with a text message, either way.
Mm-hmm. And it's incredible. We were talking internally a couple of weeks ago about a simple question that I decided to ask differently. I decided to ask in the screening qualification side, and then you get into job-related questions and culture-related questions. We're taking them through a process. And by the way, this process can happen very quickly. I've seen people go through this process in 30 minutes. Like it doesn't have to, hiring, one of our friends, William Tincup, said hiring doesn't have to take days, weeks, and months. It needs to be hours, minutes, and seconds.
Right.
And you need to be able to move at that speed. But I changed one of the responses to video. And I said, tell me about your compensation expectations. And it was fascinating because she's a fantastic person, great candidate, great applicant. And this was for enterprise, account manager type jobs. So you're going to deal with negotiation and stuff. Her answer was 1 minute and 53 seconds long. That minute and 53 seconds, I would tell you, I learned more about her than you could ever imagine. How she handled that very difficult conversation, the awkwardness of it, how she kind of rose above it. I learned a lot about her personality. Yes, I got the number. That was the intent. But if I type in, tell me your comp expectations, and she writes, I want 65 grand or whatever the numbers. Or I say, tell me about that. She starts walking me through her history. I'm learning how she deals with conflict. It was fascinating. There were 4 video interactions with her that took me less than 6 minutes to watch.
And you basically eliminated the need for a first round interview.
100%.
And we're finding that even engineers who might not want to do an introductory video do want to talk about their experience on video. Once you ask them a question, say, hey, tell me about how you'd solve this problem.
Yeah.
They really like video at that point.
Yeah. We send engineers maybe a little bit more shy. They don't want to talk about themselves. So we send them an example of some code. Go through this code and tell me the problems with it and record your answer. Yeah. And they'll go, well, this is and you're learning about them. Right. Listen, the coolest things about Connect, everybody sees the video and says, oh, video. It's not just that.
That's just one.
It's just a feature. It really is. I had this big epiphany a couple of years ago. We had just launched in beta and we were doing testing and we were plugging into job distribution. And I was like, wow, we got 200 people that applied for this job. Like, how many of these people are responsive, right? Like, in the machines, we're talking all of them. I mean, we're hitting all 200 people instantly. So I studied this data for probably 8-9 months. Fascinating. 45 to 60% of the people were unresponsive. Like literally unresponsive. And I'm sitting there saying to myself, you applied for a job.
Now you don't want to talk.
We just reached out to you. And by the way, when I say we reached out to you for 8 business days. Like boom, Craig, hey, you doing? Craig, you applied 2 days ago. Hey, Craig, we're really excited to get to know you. Hey, Craig. And then finally it's, hey, Craig, we haven't heard from you. You applied on August 1st and it's August 20th. So we're going to remove you from consideration from this job. However, thank you so much for your interest in our company.
That's right.
We really appreciate you being here. Keep us in mind for the future. Because I don't know, maybe Craig got sick. Maybe Craig was out of the country. Maybe Craig had applied for a job, went on a final interview that day and got the job and just kind of blew it off. Who cares? I still want to treat Craig great. Right. But when you think about that, 40, 65% of the people are unresponsive. Think about how much that's clogging up the system. That's right. So if I could build workflow out to eliminate that.
A little bit of automation to keep those people sort of in the loop and then let them know when they're done.
And so it was the I had changed for me. So experience, profile, interest, chemistry. Those are the 4 things you need to have a great hire. They have the right experience or skills. They got to have the right profile. They've got to be interested in working there, and there has to be chemistry present. Of course, there's been no way to judge chemistry until you get to that moment. And what I realized was, it's great that you're interested, but how do I make this person who's interested a qualified, invested candidate? How do I get them invested and want to work here? And so I said, okay, let's figure this out. And so ironically, the I's came in. I want to interact with them immediately. Okay. I want to get them to take some initiative, right? And ask them questions, take some initiative. And what happens is we started studying the human behavior side of it and said, okay, if someone applies and you jump to an interview, you've got less than a 2% chance of hiring that person. If someone applies and you kind of pre-screen them and go to an interview, you got like an 8% chance of hiring that person. And then as the data, what we tracked was how many times they interacted with us, with the platform and all this stuff. When somebody had 6 interactions and you chose to bring them in, they made it to finalist stage, and you chose to bring them in, we were running north of 90% final interview to offer, which is insane. Internally, in our company, we have a 95% final interview to offer accepted ratio. It's unheard of. But because people come in, they're like, I feel like you already know me. I'm like, I do. That's the whole point of this process. And guess what? They kind of know us too. That's right. They've seen our culture. They've seen who we are. They understand the environment. So
because of the touch points.
Because of the touch points.
And so we decide the magic number is 6?
Yeah, 5, 6, 7. They apply, you go through some basic screening to make sure, they fit the general things you're looking for. They don't want crazy money or, that's in line, the commute. Just the basics are down. Work status, all that kind of stuff, moving through some skills or job-related questions, moving through some culture-related questions, send them into the world's greatest question, tell me what you're passionate about, which uncovers the world of who they are. Right. And you tell them, we're a company full of passionate people. Or, look, you could tell them, we have the most boring company in the world, so we don't want anybody, whatever. You can ask whatever questions you want to ask, but when you do that, you ask 2 questions. You don't send 10 of them over, right, because you're looking for the answers to the question, but you're looking for the response time.
You're looking for engagement.
Engagement.
And that's the thing that's missing in hiring today.
That's right.
So is that engagement. You said something earlier that I think we should touch on that I think is fascinating. A candidate can decide what parts of their profile and which versions of their profile, and they can have multiple on their side of the app, to send to an employer. So they can turn off and on certain parts or features or decide which video to send or not to send, and even decide the format of their profile to send to an employer. That's pretty awesome. And I mean, for students, let's say, early careers, that's a wildly important thing because they're not quite sure who they're going to work for yet. They might need several versions of their profile.
Yeah, I think the most important thing, if I was talking to a young adult going into the workforce, look, you don't have any skills. Like you don't have any experience. What you have is a story. They're hiring you as a person. And so I've said this a million times. If I was applying to a job, I would create a custom video for every job I applied for. I'd say, hello, Connect. My name is Michael. I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love building tech that's disruptive and improves the way, people live. I love impacting the small to mid-sized business that, struggles with these problems, and just talk about yourself. And I haven't looked at the latest data. The last time I looked at it, it was 99% of profiles that had video attached to them, introductory videos to their answers, got seen by the hiring manager.
And that changes the game because regardless of their skills matching, it doesn't matter on camera or just articulate or passionate. Any of those things can force a different perspective with the hiring manager who might say, you know what, actually, that's someone we want to talk to.
100%. And listen, it doesn't mean that every profile that comes in is a perfect match and a perfect fit, but you're giving them more information. There were 5 things that people told us they didn't like about hiring. 1, writing a resume sucks. Nobody likes it. It can't even remember what you've done, right? So we built a place for them to do that. Number 2 was there was no way to stand out from that stack of paper. There's no way to tell your story. Number 3, which was really fascinating, was going first and second round interviews, which is one of the most fascinating things in the world to me because as parents, if you think about it, who are we trying to hire as employers? The best people. Where are the best people? Where are they at? They're employed.
They're employed. Okay.
Right. They're generally not on job boards. So we want those people to lie to their current employer and say, yeah, I'm sick today. So think about this whole process and how really foolish this is, right? And obviously, if they're ready to go, they're ready to go. So no more first and second round interviews. Number 4, privacy, or it was feedback and then privacy. Number 4 was feedback. They hated the fact that they weren't getting any feedback on jobs. And then there was no private place for them to look for a job, right? If I see someone that works here and is like on LinkedIn, hey, I'm open to network, like we have a problem, like you work here. So
by the way, problem with, let's just say, we'll call out LinkedIn since you said it, 1 profile. That's all you get.
Yeah, look, LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. It mesmerizes me that there's never been another solution to that. It mesmerizes me that these social platforms continue to evolve from MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, it just keeps going. And yet there's been nothing there for folks. And it's interesting. I think it's a fantastic platform for what it's done. I've got my business opinions on it for sure. A little disappointed to see their innovation for this year, games, to increase time on site. I don't think that's really helping us out with the problem. It's a networking platform for sure. But it's not necessarily improving the problem for companies because the problem keeps getting worse.
Keeps getting worse and more expensive, apparently.
Yeah, very much so.
All right, Michael Nadeau, this has been fascinating. We'll do this again from Connect HQ. Great to see you. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thanks, Greg.
All right.